guys, it's Megan, and welcome to my lesson plan. The instructional strategy that I was assigned was Scramble Stories, and Scramble Stories are used to increase comprehension skills in students. You could use illustrations or text placed in a random order and have students reorganize them in sequential or chronological order to help them understand the flow of the story. The age of the learner that I focused on were kindergarten, which is typically 5 or 6 years old, and the standard area that I chose was reading literature. The standard is, with prompting and support, retell familiar stories including key details. So the objective for this lesson plan is that students will be able to place key details of a given familiar story in sequential order with at least 80% accuracy. The materials that I used for this lesson plan included a video from YouTube, an illustration of the Three Little Pigs story, scissors, glue, crayons, markers, construction papers, and additional materials for gifted and ELL students. The video clip here is on YouTube. It's the Three Little Pigs story from Books Alive. It's similar to what we use for our weekly literature assignments, and I thought that this would be a great idea to integrate technology into the classroom and give the students a different view of the story instead of it just being read from a book to them. I wanted to play a little bit of this clip so you can hear the narration because I thought the narrator did an excellent job and it would really engage the students in listening in the story.
Set off to see the world.
Goodbye, dear piglets. Always look out for the big bad wolf,
Said their mother.
He's bad, he's big, and he'd love to eat a tasty little... Goodbye, Mother.
The three little pigs hadn't gone.
So that's just a little bit of it, but I thought that he did a great job and that would really engage the students into the lesson. The next thing that I used here is the illustrations. Mine aren't colored, but the students then can take these illustrations, color them, make them their own, cut and paste them out and place them on construction papers in order for them to be able to reorganize them into sequential order. Like I said, I do have additional materials for my gifted and my ELL students, but I'll show that later on when I go over my adaptations. So the vocabulary that I have for this lesson plan is sequence, order, and then I have some key terms like first, next, then, and last. So the lesson will start with students viewing the video that you just seen a clip of the Three Little Pigs. After the video is over, I will then ask the students questions that will then prompt them to discuss the sequential order of the story. Like, an example, what happened first? What happened next? What happened then? And what happened last? We will then engage in a classroom discussion about the new vocabulary that was just obtained during the question and response section of the lesson. The students will then be given the illustrated printed sheet of the Three Little Pigs story, and then they can go ahead and color the illustrations, cut them out, paste them on the construction paper, and then they will then have the chance to organize those in sequential order according to their understanding of the vocabulary and the story. Each student will then present their timeline of the story to the teacher for evaluation of their understanding of the new concept, and then the lesson will conclude with a game involving the class practicing and putting phrases and activities in sequential order. An example, we can talk about how to get ready for bedtime. What are the steps? What happens first? We change into our pajamas. What happens next? We brush our teeth. What happens then? We read a story, a bedtime story, and then what happens last? Lights out. So that'll be the kind of things that will be discussed in the game. The assessment for this lesson plan is a formative assessment. It's very basic. It's just reviewing the illustrations, making sure they're in sequential order. If the student gets 4 out of 6 correct, they will receive an O for outstanding, which will be recorded in the grade book. If they have 3 or 4 correct, they will receive an S for satisfactory, and 1 and 2 correct will receive an N for needs improvement. The related materials and resources for this lesson plan include going to the Scholastic website. On the Clifford, there's a Scramble game that they can play at home or in school on the tablets. Here they have stories and phrases that are put in a random order, and then they will just have to go back in and place them in sequential order. So it's reiterating and practicing the same concept that they're learning in class, which is great. The second resource that I have that I'm using in my lesson plan is from the Reading Rockets website, which I think this is an amazing website. Not only is it user friendly and have a lot of information for teachers and other education professionals, but it has a lot of information on it for parents. This goes over the story sequence, so it gives parents an idea about what their student is learning in class. It also gives them videos that they can help gain a visual example of what needs to be done. But this also doesn't touch just on language arts. It touches on other content areas such as math, science, or even art. So I thought that this was an excellent resource, and it also gives suggestions about books that can be used that go along with the strategy that their child is being taught in class. The adaptations that I have for this lesson plan, first for my gifted students, I included text and illustrations instead of just the illustrations. To give them a little bit more of a challenge, because nowadays a lot of kindergarten students are coming in and they can actually read. So I wanted to add some text, and then they have to match the illustration to the text and then place it in sequential order. For my ELL students, all depending on what their native language is, flashcards of the vocabulary terms and the story will be translated for them. So it all depends on what their native language is. And then for my visually impaired students, they will get a detailed verbal description of what the illustrations are in order to help them be able to place things in sequential order. All right. Well, that wraps up my lesson plan. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys all have a great evening. Thanks.